the commissioning of Coleman Fibre Optic Cable Factory, Phase 2, and the celebration of 50 years of a proudly Nigerian manufacturing institution.
We're just commissioned a 9 million fiber cow factory. It's a game changer. Basically, it's 2 times the size of the nearest competitor in the continent. This singularly is the biggest factory in Africa today.
Nigeria has just commissioned Africa's largest fiber optic cable manufacturing facility, a decisive industrial intervention that aims to rewire the country's digital supply chain and deepen domestic value addition in telecoms manufacturing. The state-of-the-art plant, built by Coleman Technical Industries Limited at Ishagamu Complex in Ogun State, was formally unveiled at the end of October 2025 and immediately framed by federal and state leaders as a strategic asset for the national broadband rollout and for export-led industrialization. The Shagamu facility grew out of a policy and market imperative. Nigeria's ambitious national broadband and backbone plans requires very large volume of optical cable, and these volumes had previously been met largely through imports. Policymakers and industry leaders argue that import dependence created fragile supply chains, foreign exchange exposure, long lead times, and higher deployment costs. Problems that directly slow rollout of fiber to home, backbone and metro networks, and in response, Coleman's expansion was presented as a private sector solution aligned with government goals to localize critical inputs for the telecommunication value chain and to capture the higher value stages of cable manufacture. The Federal Ministry of Communication has explicitly tied the factory to national rollout targets and broader programs such as the Project Bridge. Coleman located a new line inside Ishagamu Industrial Campus in Ogun State, an area the company has steadily developed into a cable manufacturing cluster alongside existing Arepo facilities. The Shagamu site was selected for its access to industrial land, proximity to Lagos ports, and the availability of infrastructure that support heavy manufacturing. Ogun's industrial corridors and the state effort to package land, roads, and services for manufacturing have made the state a logical home for large-scale industrial projects such as this one. The choice of Shagamu also reflects a strategic clustering approach. Placing smelting, conductor production, and cable assembly near one another reduces logistic costs and support backward integration. According to report, the Shagamu fiber optic facility has a nameplate capacity of up to 9 million kilometers of fiber optic cables per year, making it the largest single cable manufacturing installation in the continent. The plant is also reported to include metal processing capabilities, able to handle roughly 13,000 tons of copper and aluminium per month, and to house Africa's first commercial fiber-reinforced plastic production line for cable armoring and related products. These features combine high volume with vertical integration, raw material processing, conductor production, cable jacketing, and FRP armoring in a single industrial cluster, enabling Coleman to capture greater value across the manufacturing chain. The project was publicly described as being supported principally by local financing, a syndicate that includes First City Monument Bank and the Bank of Industry and Infra Credit, signaling a domestic capital market willingness to underwrite industrialization. Company-level communications and media coverage described the expansion as a multi-billion naira investment, and Coleman has previously disclosed multi-stage investment across Arekpo and Shagamu. While a single fully itemized public capital expenditure figure for the Shagamu 5 phase has not been consolidated into one line in public reporting, the financing partners and broad disclosure shows the project to be a major locally funded industrial build. At the commissioning, federal and industry speakers framed the factory as serving several overlapping purposes, some of which includes to substitute import of high-value telecom hardware, to secure supply for government-led fiber deployment, to create jobs and stimulate cluster-level supplier development, and to position Nigeria as an exporter of fiber and cable systems across West Africa. In other words, it is both a demand security measure for domestic broadband push and an industrial policy instrument aimed at capturing export earnings and higher value-added jobs. The factory's significance is structural. First, by producing cables locally at scale, unit procurement costs for operators and public projects should fall as import premiums, freight and currency risks are removed, a factor that accelerates rollout rates and reduces the marginal cost of extending networks to underserved areas. Secondly, the vertical integration retains value in Nigeria that would otherwise occur abroad, increasing domestic manufacturing GDP, stimulating the minerals processing and plastic sectors, and creating demand for logistics, testing laboratories, and vocational skills in optical fiber engineering. Thirdly, the company and government statements cited tens of thousands of direct and indirect jobs, if realized, will materially affect local employment and skills deployment in Ogun and surrounding states. Finally, The factory sends a clear signal to regional market that Nigerian factories can compete on volume and reliability, opening export pathways that could convert Nigeria from net importer to regional supplier. Nigeria's push to source more equipment domestically is multi-pronged. At the federal level, the Ministry of Communication and other agencies have tied large procurement programs to local content objectives, meaning predictable government demand for fiber that local manufacturers can bid for. The federal government public endorsement, alongside credit-enhancing instruments such as infra credit, helps reduce project financing costs for domestic manufacturers. Meanwhile, Ogun State has actively packaged investors' incentives, land facilitation, infrastructure provision, tax and rate incentives, and institutional support through its investment promotion vehicle, Ogun Invest. The state has repeatedly communicated a policy of investor friendliness, tax holidays, land rebates, streamlined approvals, and industrial policy framework that explicitly prioritize manufacturing, and has built industrial parks and road linkages that makes large plants operationally viable. These combined measures reduce project risk and encourages both local firms and foreign investors to locate manufacturing capacities in Nigeria. By linking local manufacture, domestic finance, and explicit procurement targets, Nigeria and Ogun State have created a credible pathway for turning an import-dependent telecom subsector into a locally anchored, export-capable industry. If public demand remains predictable and supply chain depth improves, the plant could lower deployment costs, create substantial employment, and anchor a durable manufacturing cluster that reshapes West Africa's telecom hardware landscape. Drop your honest comment and tell us what you think about this project. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Thank you.